Alright, so I'm going to do a quick demo for you guys on how to live trace your image, flip it, and align it in Illustrator for our current project. First thing I'm going to do is open up the image that I have, which is on my desktop. I took this photo of this quick sketch so that I could use it for you guys with my phone. I drew it on grid paper really quickly. It opens up pretty large. In order to zoom in and zoom out efficiently, I like to use the command minus to zoom out and the command plus to zoom in. So I'll give you guys a couple of commands that you can use on your keyboard. It just makes working a little bit faster. The first thing I'm going to do in this is I'm going to select my selection tool. You can use the command V down here if you notice. And I'm going to select my image. Up at the top of the screen, you'll notice that the image trace option comes up. And I'm just going to go up here and click image trace. It looks pretty good, but there's a few things that I want to change. Mainly, I want to make sure that this white background is excluded. So I'm going to go over here to our image trace panel, and I'm going to click there. And if when you open it, it doesn't show everything, you want to click on this little arrow and fly out your other advanced options. The major thing is that I want to make sure that I hit ignore white. And if your image doesn't look good, you want to tinker around with the threshold, probably raising it up a little bit. I don't want to raise mine because it'll start to pick up that grid. And then perhaps even raising the paths a little bit so that it'll be a little more true to your image, and maybe the corners. This is something that you just really have to play around with to get the hang of it, and I always trace in black and white for this part. Once you're happy with how everything looks and you've hit the ignore white option, you want to go and expand this. And at this point it's ready to manipulate, so I'm just going to close this panel out for myself. Alright, now that I have this here, I notice one thing, that my edges here aren't even. So I'm going to ungroup this image so that I can kind of do a little bit of correcting. Well, actually, I could just do it with an eraser if I wanted to. But I'm going to use the pathfinder tool to kind of chop everything at a square. So I draw this rectangle by going over here to my rectangle tool, or if you have anything else selected, you can click and hold. It'll give you your additional options. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this pathfinder. If you don't have your pathfinder already out, just go up here and click on window and go to pathfinder. This is a pretty handy little setup. So I'm going to use my selection tool and click here. I'm going to hit command shift and G to ungroup it, or I'm going to go to object and ungroup. You have to do these separately or it wants to kind of chop everything up. So I'm just going to copy this real quick so I can make an extra really fast. I select this guy and I hold down the shift key and I select this guy. The black square is in the front, and I just go over to my pathfinder tool and I hit minus front, and this is going to subtract everything that's up in the front of the image, which is very handy. I'm going to then paste the same square that I copied. So if I copied it with command C, which I did and I may not have mentioned, I'm going to copy it with I'm going to paste it with command shift V, which pastes it in the exact same place. I can then select this little chunk of the drawing and this tool and use the minus front on the pathfinder. I'll do the same thing with this one. Command shift V will place my rectangle back in place, and I can use the minus front. Command shift V places. I then select this one and use the pathfinder tool to chop that off, and then I'm just going to delete that guy. Alright, so everything has a nice straight edge at this point and it'll line up. I did this so you can see the difference between trimming it and not trimming it. On the bottom one we won't trim it. So I'm going to group this drawing back together so the little parts don't move. I can either use object and group, or I can use the command, which is command G. Alright, so now I'm ready to flip it. I'm going to copy this again using Command C, and then I'm going to paste it using Command V. I have some image options to change this around, so I can right click, or if you don't have right click enabled on your Mac, you can hit Control click and the same options will come out from the edge. I'm going to use transform and reflect, and I'm going to reflect it vertically. I can then go and just line this up. All right, so it's all nice and even. It looks pretty good. So what I do is I just click and drag a box around it, or I hold down my Shift key and click on each one to have them selected. And then I'm going to group these two together. So Command G or Object Group. I then place this by hitting Command V. Oops, sorry. I didn't copy it. Command C, Command V to place it. And then right click or control click and transform and reflect. And this time we're going to choose a horizontal axis. Click OK. I zoomed out real quick for you guys using the Command minus function. And I'm just going to line these up. Now the extra step involved with the cropping out of this line makes for a really nice clean edge. If you don't mind the overlap, you don't have to do it. As you can see on this axis, the overlap is there and it doesn't really bother me too much. So I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to hold down the Shift key and select both groupings and then just group them all together in one large chunk by using Command G. At this point, it's time to set up my artboard, which I could have done already, but it doesn't matter. I can do it now. I'm going to go over here to my menu and choose my artboard tool. It automatically selects the artboard, and then I can transform the size of it. So I'm going to go over here to where it says height, and I'm going to enter 7.75 for our height of the board and 5 inches wide. I can then use my selection tool by clicking on the whole grouping, and holding down the Shift key, I can scale it. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit for that. And then hold down the Shift key again and scale it one more time. And zoom in. So my initial photo that I used was very big. All right. And then I can just check it out. It looks pretty good. Considering I didn't really plan it to fit perfectly, that's all right. If you notice the little kind of flickering on the middle, Illustrator wants to snap it to the center, and I'm quite all right with that. So I'm just going to click until it is happy with the placement. And I'm pretty happy with that too. All right. The last step that you want to do is to save your file. So File and Save. Please use your name. I'm going to put demo because mine is a demo. You would use Canon 1, or you would use your name, hopefully, and 1, 2, 3, and 4 to save the assignment. You just click OK to all of this stuff, and you're good to go. The last thing that you want to do is upload each of these files to my link in Blackboard. Thanks so much. Hope that helped. Please let me know if you have any extra questions.